seconds to go. Puts it up and scores at the buzzer.
All the band is out on the field.
That's another knockdown. You know, Jim. Get up.
You believe in miracles? Yes.
The All Things Sport Podcast with your hosts, Damian Banks and Pierre Banks on Spreaker Radio.
What's happening? What's up? What's going on? It's the All Things Sport Podcast, and I'm your host, Damian Banks, broadcasting live to you from the beautiful Banks Boys Studios right here in Durham, North Carolina. It is ATS, as I affectionately like to call it, the All Things Sport Podcast, where I give you all things sport. Ladies and gentlemen, men's, women's, I said men's, I put a Z on the end of men, men's, women's, welcome back to the All Things Sport Podcast. If you're a long-time listener, welcome back. If you're a new listener, come on in. The door's wide open. And here at the All Things Sport Podcast, I strive to give quality sports analysis on whatever I'm speaking about at that particular moment. So let me first preface the podcast by saying I want to apologize for last week's podcast. Had a few technical difficulties on the editing end of the podcast, so my audio wasn't top notch. It wasn't A1 like I would have wanted it to be. So let me apologize for that. I'm going to fix those problems this week, hopefully, and we're going to give you a better product. So it's a learning curve. We're going through growing pains right now. I'm doing this all on my own. I'm doing the recording. I'm doing the editing. And, you know, it's a tall task, but I think I'm up to the task. So again, welcome to the All Things Sport Podcast. Again, I'm your host, Damian Banks. You can get at me on Twitter and Instagram, same handle, at Sports by Damian. That's SportsBydamian. And right now, as we all know, the world of sports is popping 10. Poppington, yes, that's a word. Right now, the world of sports is popping 10. You got NFL action popping off. You have college football action popping off. The NBA season just started. College basketball just started. Hockey's going on. NASCAR is going into its championship drive. You got a lot of sports right now intertwined. Now, on this week's podcast, I'm not going to speak on the NBA that much. Actually, I'm not going to speak on the NBA at all. But what I will give you is a few headlines that I deem to be worthy of the All Things Sport Podcast for this particular episode. You know, sports is a crazy thing, man. You can't write this stuff. And if anyone believes that this stuff is rigged, you know, I can understand how you can feel if it's rigged, if your team is not performing at the level that you want your team to perform at. But you can't write this stuff, man. And as a media guy, as a sports analyst, you know, I love it, man. It's chaos right now. I'm going to start with the world of college football on our hot topics. The world of college football last weekend was so chaotic, and I loved it, man. I thoroughly enjoyed the chaos. Now, atop the world of college football, you got the Alabama Crimson Tide. Nothing's chaotic about the Alabama Crimson Tide. Nick Saban has that squad firing on all cylinders. They are destroying opponents. They are crushing the competition. But after Alabama, it's a toss-up, man. Right now, as I talk, the Ohio State Buckeyes come in at number 2 in the college football playoff top 4. Number 3 is the Michigan Wolverines. The Michigan Wolverines were number 2 last week before they lost on the last-second field goal to the Iowa Hawkeyes. Did anyone see that coming? I know I didn't see it coming. Iowa had been fairly pedestrian in my eyes. Hell, Iowa lost to a FCS opponent, North Dakota State, earlier in the season. So I really didn't see the Iowa Hawkeyes beating Michigan. Also, you got the Clemson Tigers, who were number 3 last week. They lost also last week in a last-second field goal to Pittsburgh. Did anyone see the Clemson Tigers and the Fighting Dabos losing to Pittsburgh, albeit on a last-second field goal? I didn't see it. And the Washington Huskies, who were ranked number 4 last week, lost at home to the USC Trojans. Didn't see that one coming. Washington had been playing well all season long. They had been crushing opponents. And going into the game against USC, I know USC isn't a slouch, but I didn't see them beating the Washington Huskies. But right now it's so chaotic in the college football playoff scene. That top four, it fluctuates. It's ever changing. You never know who's going to be in that top four, except for one team. The Alabama Crimson Tide, I don't see them losing. They may lose in a rivalry game to Auburn, but even if they do lose, they're still going to go to the SEC championship game. They're still going to win the SEC championship game, and Nick Saban is still going to have that Alabama Crimson Tide squad playing in one of those Final Four spots in the college football playoffs. All the other slots, you never know what's going to happen, man. I swear, I didn't see Ohio State losing to Penn State earlier in the season. Penn State has used that win to turn their season around. The Penn State Nittany Lions are on a roll, ladies and gentlemen. Penn State is 8-2 on the season, all the way up to number 8 in the college football rankings. Now, Washington, again, the Washington Huskies, they were at number 4. After they lost to USC, they only fell a couple slots to number 6. And they are at 9-1. Now, the Louisville Cardinals, they struggled in the first half against the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. Louisville is at number 5. They're poised to make an appearance in that top 4 because Ohio State and Michigan have to play each other the last game of the season. And whoever loses that game is going to have 2 losses. They're going to essentially be out of that college football top 4 spot. So Louisville is poised to jump into that position as long as they keep winning. And you got Wisconsin at number 7. Again, Penn State at number 8 at 8-2. You have Oklahoma at 8-2. A lot of people had left them for dead. And you have the Colorado Buffaloes at 8-2 to round out the top 10. So this college football ranking, this top 4 slots that everyone is trying to get into, it's going to be changing. It's going to be a week-to-week basis. I love the chaos in college football. I don't like stagnation. I don't like when things are predictable. I crave unpredictability. When I wake up in the morning, I don't drink the same coffee every morning. I don't use the same creamer. I think to myself, what type of coffee would you like this morning? What type of creamer would you like this morning? You don't want to have French vanilla. You just had French vanilla yesterday. You don't want to have caramel macchiato creamer. You just had that yesterday. Do you want breakfast blend coffee or do you want a dark roast? I don't know. I like chaos. I don't know. I like the unpredictability of which coffee I like to drink. And I like that same unpredictability in the world of sports. And since college football is so unpredictable right now, let me say 3 words. I love it. I love the unpredictability. So college football is one of my hot topics. And another one of my hot topics, let me move on. I'm going to touch on the Carolina Panthers of the National Football League. And the reason why I'm fixated on the Carolina Panthers is because I am in Durham, North Carolina. My fan base is predominantly in the state of North Carolina and South Carolina. So that team, the Carolina Panthers, are the team of this region. So I like to speak a little bit about the Carolina Panthers. Now, the Panthers had got off to a 1-5 start to start the season. And a lot of people thought that they were not going to have a great season and they weren't going to make the playoffs. They went into a bye week, came out of that bye week, and won 2 straight games. So last Sunday, they had a home game versus the Kansas City Chiefs. The Panthers sat at 3-5, poised to move to 4-5 to try to continue to turn their season around. Cam Newton and the Panthers had a 17-0 lead in the second half. 17-0. Usually, when you're playing football, especially at the highest level, the National Football League, if you have a 17-point lead, especially late in the third quarter, you usually don't blow that lead. You usually don't lose that game. But lo and behold, the Carolina Panthers had to go and mess everything up. I wanted Krispy Kreme donuts. Carolina Panthers, every time they win, Krispy Kreme runs a promotion where you get half off of a dozen donuts. I wanted a dozen Krispy Kreme, Carolina Panthers. Cam Newton, why did you have to ruin it for me? Up 17-3. Cam Newton threw a pick 6 to Eric Berry. Horrible decision by Cam Newton. Don't know what he was doing. He was flushed from the pocket, had a little bit of pressure. The Kansas City Chiefs decided to blitz him on that particular play. Cam Newton threw the ball up for grabs. Eric Berry intercepted that pass and made a great play to return it for a touchdown. So it was 17-10. And, okay, with 17-10, they're still in the game. They let the Kansas City Chiefs come back and tie the game at 17. So it's 17-17 late in the game, fourth quarter. We're thinking, let's go to overtime. If you're a Carolina Panthers fan, that is. I'm a San Francisco 49ers fan. They're a big pile of flaming feces right now. So I'm not going to really speak about the San Francisco 49ers, although I do love my squad. But I digress. We're talking about the Carolina Panthers. So the Panthers, they're tied with the Kansas City Chiefs in last Sunday's game at 17, late in the ball game. They throw to Kelvin Benjamin, their big body wide receiver, runs about 6'5", 240. Kelvin Benjamin proceeds to get stripped late in the fourth quarter. Kansas City Chiefs recover that strip. They recover that fumble. Cairo Santos kicks the game-winning field goal. 20-17. The Kansas City Chiefs come back and win that game. How do you lose that game, Carolina Panthers? That's unacceptable. Panthers fall to 3-6 on the season, and they are in dire straits. Head coach Ron Rivera, you got to do something, man. You got to turn this thing around. Offensive coordinator Mike Shula, you got to do something. You got to turn this thing around. Defensive coordinator Sean McDermott, you have to do something. You have to turn this thing around. Now, as I speak, the Carolina Panthers are about to tip off on Thursday Night Football with Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints. Now, essentially, this is a playoff elimination game for these two squads. The Saints are 4-5. The Panthers are 3-6. So both teams need to win this game to try to keep pace with the Atlanta Falcons in the NFC South. Cam Newton, look yourself in the mirror, sir. Stop eating that Oikos Dannon Greek yogurt. Look yourself in the mirror. Ask yourself this. Am I the MVP of the National Football League? Can I, Cam Newton, lead my team to the playoffs? You got to get out of this funk, Cam Newton. You got to start playing better, man. You guys are 3-6 right now. You're about to kick off with the New Orleans Saints. Hopefully, by the time this podcast ends, I can give you an update on that score. And if you're a Carolina Panthers fan, you hope that the Panthers will win that game. If you are a fan of the New Orleans Saints, of course, you're going to hope the Saints win that game. But me, myself, and I need the Panthers to win. I need half off a dozen Krispy Kreme donuts, man. Cam, please, man. I'm asking you. Please win the game. I love Krispy Kreme donuts, man. I didn't really like them at first until last year, but then you're going to mess around and go 15-1. So I got half off of Krispy Kreme donuts every Monday because the Panthers kept winning. So I got accustomed to it. I got used to it. And I don't usually like to get accustomed to things, man. I like unpredictability. But last season, the Panthers were predictably good. This season, so far, they're predictably not good. And I know my friend Lauren Brownlow, I use the term friend loosely because I hadn't actually met Lauren Brownlow. I've met her on Twitter, and she's from all intents and purposes, she's a fantastic lady. And she loves the Carolina Panthers. So I follow her on Twitter, and every time the Panthers lose, her Twitter is actually very interesting. I love it. I mean, it's comedy to me. So for Lauren Brownlow's sake, Carolina Panthers, please beat the New Orleans Saints tonight. But with that being said, man, I'm glad that you all are here with me tonight. I'm glad that you're listening to the All Things Sport podcast. We have gotten off to a roaring start on the All Things Sport podcast. I'm going to take this commercial break. I'm going to crack open a bottle of Deer Park 100% natural spring water, established in 1873. Now, I say all of that because I am a big fan of spring water. I don't like purified drinking water. I've said this in previous podcasts. I just don't like purified drinking water. I like the crisp, refreshing taste of natural spring water. So I'm going to drink this bottle of Deer Park. You guys go to the bathroom, go to the refrigerator, pop some popcorn, make a pizza. I don't know. It's not delivery. It's DiShorno's. I don't know. Do what you need to do. We're going to take this commercial break. We'll be right back. After the break, we're going to break down college basketball. College basketball is king in this area. You have University of North Carolina Tar Heels in Chapel Hill. You have the Duke Blue Devils right here in Durham, North Carolina. You have the NC State Wolfpack in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I'm going to actually show some love to an HBCU who's right here in Durham.